Motley Crue's guitarist we had updated was no longer going to be touring on the farewell tour with the band because unfortunately he had developed this debilitating arthritic condition. So that was the last time we updated on what's going on with them. Well, now the band's in this whole dispute because Mick is saying he got ripped off. So here's what happened. So on this farewell tour, Mick, he's now suing the band. And he's claiming that they kicked him out and ripped him off financially. So what happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, like he's had this condition that he's always had, but it just kind of gets worse, and it's very difficult for him to play excessive shows and stuff. So he was just like, yeah, I'm still in the band. I still want to play, on the albums and write songs, and I could play a couple, one-off gigs here if there's like important things or whatever, but I can't, tour. And so they got John Five to come in, but he was on the understanding that he was still getting a fourth of what they were going to be earning, and they were like, no, we're going to give you 5%, then that's good enough for you. You're not on tour, you're not making the money, why would you get any of this cash?
Yeah, so
But
Mick is saying that the band, like you had noted, cut the profit participation from 25% down to 5. And he's saying, I never agreed to that,
mhm.
right? That's not something that I, otherwise would have thought was okay anyway, because he goes, just because I'm not touring, it doesn't mean I'm done forever with the band, right? And then, some other questions end up coming up with this for me because as a real entertainment attorney, I literally had a situation just like this where someone literally couldn't be in the country for a
Yeah.
period of time. And so he was a partner and it happened to be a fourth partner in the band. So they replaced him. And it was for a number of years. And so from what he understood, he's like, I'm still a partner. But they stopped paying him. So in this instance with Mick, this is what he's saying. What's the band saying in response?
Yeah, no, they're just saying that, I mean, basically that they had an agreement where, they all said that in no event shall any resigning shareholder be entitled to receive any more monies attribute to live performances. So they're like saying that they already all sat there and agreed, and it's like, they're getting like really kind of petty with each other. Nikki Six was just saying like he can't play chords or something like on his guitar anymore, just saying how his guitar playing isn't,
So
great. And then
saying Mick
yeah,
can't
saying
play.
say
Oh.
he can't play as well anymore. And then, Mick is coming firing back, talking about how all of his parts on tour are just pre-recorded bass parts, and he's just up there faking it. They're getting crazy, like
Yeah,
kind of petty with it, and it
and
sucks
then
because they are a legendary band. They are have been active. I mean, there's been little times where they haven't been. For the most part, they've always been active. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like it's tough. It's tough to have even John Five up there instead of Mick Mars, but John Five is amazing. So you're just kind of like, it's John Five,
yeah.
but
Right. Well, and then the attorney put out a statement. So this was updated just a few hours ago, saying, Mick's lawsuit is unfortunate and completely off base. In 2008, Mick voted for and
mm,
signed an agreement in which he and every other band member agreed that in no event, to your point on the quote, in no event shall any resigned shareholder be entitled to receive any monies attributable to live performances. So then my question would be, if I was looking at this, did he resign as a shareholder, right? So just because he decides not to continue with live performances, that doesn't mean you resign as an owner in a company necessarily.
and the tricky thing is you're getting updates from the attorney for the band. You know what I mean? So it's tough. Like, not that I want to make things difficult, because it's already hard enough making decisions as a band. But you kind of sometimes need to have some of your own representation at some point, because if you have one lawyer that is just explaining everything to everybody, now
Yeah.
they're bound by their duty to explain it correctly. But I mean, like, it's not necessarily looking for your personal best interest. It's looking for best, for in that case, I would imagine, just the best interest of the property, of the band, of the brand.
Of the band. And I'm so glad you made that point. So when bands hire me to represent them as their legal counsel, I actually have to put a conflict of interest waiver in the engagement letter. So I say, band as the entity is engaging me. I don't represent any one of you individually, right? So if
Yeah.
John screws over Bob, you
Yeah.
guys need to duke it out with your own
Yeah.
counsel. right? So that'd be a conflict of interest. So you're absolutely right, and you should always have your own separate counsel. So in this case, I would immediately go to the contract and just say, just because he didn't do tours, right? So we're talking about one tour that he backed out on. All of a sudden, he's not entitled to a share of the profits, and he should just take pennies.
I don't know if I would say this about every band. I think and I'm not coming from a legal perspective personally. I'm coming from like maybe more of an emotional point. But like 25% is a lot of money to recur on tour that you're not even playing. Like, I mean, I think everybody can kind of look at that. 5% also seems a little low because like he's such a part of that band. And like, I would think that he had already put something in place with that band to assure that for whatever reason, they threw him out for anything, he still was earning from that band because of everything that he contributed, because they're essentially a legacy act.
Yeah, and just
Still,
I always assume with someone who has achieved so much, they've gotten proper legal counsel, and so that the agreement would say that we're talking about a partnership. I don't know what their agreement says. And sometimes it's just shocking what can happen and what they don't get their rights protected. So, maybe he contractually is not entitled to anything just because he didn't actually go on this tour.
but
And
I
I
don't
don't know
like
the answer
hearing
to
it.
that.
I don't like hearing it. I don't like hearing about it, but it happens.
Yeah, it's funny, and I'll
What do you think is going to end up happening with this?
No, and I'll end on this just by saying, it's interesting because as an attorney, I find that I err on the side of what is the best for, from a PR perspective to getting more business to finding harmony within the band. And in this case, if it's like, well, contractually, maybe he's not entitled to, 25%, right? And so we say, fine, take 5%. We're going to do this. We're being so nice to you. But
Right.
what's another way to bridge the gap here? What's another way so that we don't have basically a lifetime relationship or relationships completely fall apart, which to your point
That's
is what's happening.
yeah.
So, we'll continue to see because now this is a lawsuit. So we will be following.